Tonight, the Mamdani administration is holding the second of its so-called rental ripoff hearings, where New Yorkers who are frustrated with their landlords can speak directly to city officials. Tonight's hearing is in Long Island City in Queens, but the hearings have received scrutiny from many housing advocates who are concerned that the city's own public housing residents are not being included. The city says all residents are welcome to testify this evening. Joining me now to talk about the hearings and much more is the city's former chief housing officer, Jessica Katz. She also leads the New York City Housing Authority Regeneration Initiative. That's an independent team of housing experts and advocates who are working directly with tenants to improve housing conditions in public housing. The initiative is funded in part by the Charles H. Revson Foundation, where I volunteer as chairman of the board. Welcome to the program. Great to see you.
Thanks so much for having me.
So public housing did not get a whole lot of discussion on the campaign trail, but you're saying that it really should be central to Mamdani's housing vision. Why is that?
You know, a housing plan is not a housing plan if NYCHA is not front and center. That's clear. NYCHA, the work that needs to be done to fix public housing does not lend itself well to a campaign promise or a bumper sticker. So I'm glad that they're taking their time with it, but I do expect their housing plan to put NYCHA front and center.
It doesn't make for an easy bumper sticker for the same reason that mayors generally don't like to get involved in NYCHA, right?
There's no easy answers. It's a really, really big, thorny problem. I think for the first time, we have a toolkit that's working, and we're seeing some of that light at the end of the tunnel. There are about 3,000 to 5,000 units a year are being converted through either the PACT program or the Public Housing Preservation Trust. If we could double that to 8,000 or 10,000, then we'd really be cooking.
And how could you double it?
So the financing is available through what's called the conversion to a Section 8 program. Traditional public housing is funded through Section 9. You would convert to Section 8. And then NYCHA is basically the only property owner in the country who doesn't get to do what everyone else does, which is take out a mortgage to pay for the repairs that you need. So that conversion to Section 8 enables you to do that.
Got it. And PACT, which stands for Permanent Affordability Commitment Together, essentially allows people to use a Section 8 voucher, take it to an entity, and that then becomes the basis for them to borrow money to do the repairs that are needed? Is that how it works?
Yes, it creates a public-private partnership that brings in third-party management of the buildings and brings in the cash that you need to do the repairs through that Section 8 transition. But the tenant's rights do not change. The tenant's rent does not change. Everyone is capped, and it does not mean, while it is bringing in third-party managers, it does not mean that your apartments are going market rate.
Right, and the ownership of public housing remains public forever and ever and ever. That doesn't change it.
The land stays owned by NYCHA.
Right. So now there's been some reporting that not all PACT managers are doing a great job, right? So the model isn't perfect. Just like anywhere else, you have to get good, skilled, caring people who are going to do a good job.
No models are perfect. The tenant satisfaction surveys that are performed by a third party, about 90% of tenants say that they're happy with PACT and they would do it again and they'd recommend it to their friends and family. The rate of housing maintenance code violations is about half of what it is in the general affordable housing stock and the general multifamily stock in general. But absolutely, it requires oversight and best practices.
Yeah, and look, 90% success in government or anywhere else is actually pretty good, right?
Pretty good.
Yeah. You say that the NYCHA board should be expanded. Why?
So the scale of NYCHA, it's the size of a major city. It's the size of Atlanta, Minneapolis. It's hundreds of thousands of people. And it's governed by a 7-member board. It's just not enough people to have the proper governance and subcommittees and the folks you would need in order to create the oversight that you'd want to see.
You've also suggested that there be, just as there are tenant associations and there's an association of the presidents of the tenant associations, and there's kind of a resident-led parallel, or at least resident-focused leadership team that's an important stakeholder at NYCHA. You've written that those who are involved in PACT should also have kind of a similar leadership group.
Yeah, so the Housing Authority guarantees the right to organize and the right to a tenant association. And when I was at City Hall, we created this process where NYCHA tenants are sitting in the driver's seat to pick who their PACT partners should be. And as they go through that process, they should absolutely be asking the PACT partners that they're evaluating and picking who they want to work with, whether or not they will continue to maintain that right to organize.
So now the overall problem, which I guess is the big number we probably could have started with, is that the estimated cost to bring all of the units up to a state of good repair is something like $78 billion. It keeps going up. I remember when it was $40 billion. You've suggested that one of the ways to sort of get the units repaired or even rebuilt is to build first, get the new stuff done first, not ask everybody to leave and then start a construction process that seems to have a lot of people worried, including across the street from right here.
Yeah, so there's a $78 billion need, as you said. An important thing about that number, other than just its sheer scale, is that that's almost half of the capital need for the housing authorities across the entire country. So you just know that the federal government is not coming to save us with this. So we really need to do, but we do have these two tools. We have PACT and we have the Preservation Trust that is chipping away at that bit by bit. But there's still a lot of mistrust out there. So one of the ways in which you could build trust is instead of asking somebody to take a leap of faith and move out of their apartment while you renovate it, is to build a building first, and then they have that fact in front of them of the new building without having to, take a leap of faith.
And is that an engineering and logistics issue, more so than anything else?
NYCHA has this RFQ out earlier last year, a request for qualifications around interest if there were vacant lots around NYCHA developments, if there's other opportunities to build that would make it easier to build first. There have been some infill projects on NYCHA parking lots, things like that, although primarily those have not been in the service of the existing Section 9 tenants. So that's the kind of planning process that we need to hear about, and that's what I would be looking for from a Mamdani administration, is that the housing plan, the budget plan, any kind of zoning discussions, NYCHA is really front and center.
So now, with things like tonight's rental ripoff hearing, it's not that NYCHA residents can't go, but the landlord that they'd be complaining about is the city itself. So it kind of takes it out of the kind of conversation that they're trying to have at these hearings. Do we need to have separate hearings where people come and sort of let NYCHA know what they feel about how things are going?
Yeah, so the purpose of the rental ripoff hearings is something different. NYCHA is present at those hearings, to my knowledge, and so there will be an opportunity for NYCHA tenants to get their voices heard. But as you can see from the uproar around this, NYCHA tenants are really demanding to have their voices heard. So making sure that the votes happen in the trust, making sure that the tenants get to do a tenant selection process in PACT are all ways that you can get NYCHA tenants involved. But I'll add that as much as we want to hear the voices of NYCHA residents, the time for diagnosing the problem is kind of over.
Right.
We're $80 billion in the hole, and there's nothing, and NYCHA knows that, and that's a clear fact. So really seeing some action. I've worked for 3 mayoral administrations now, and if I've learned anything, it's that it's really the execution that matters more than the ideology.
Well, yeah, in our last minute, what is your best case scenario if the Mamdani administration wants to move forward, take you up on this challenge to let's make this central, let's get it out of a silo, let's make it a central part of our housing plan?
So listen, over the course of my career in housing in New York City, HPD, for example, has gone from about 10,000 units a year to about 20 or 30,000 units a year. So it's not out of the ballpark of what government agencies in New York, the scale that they're able to work on. So if you went from 3 to 5, which is what we're doing currently in PACT, to 8 to 10,000, there's 170,000 units. You'd be able to see in our lifetimes a real turnaround in the process. And right now we have 2 tools. It's not enough. It would be great to have more. But right now, PACT and the trust are really the way to move forward.
Yeah, right. 30 or 40,000 units out of 170. That's real progress.
Now we're starting to get somewhere.
Okay, we shall see. Thanks very much. Great talking with you,
Thanks for
Jessica
having me.
Katz.